Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the main window. His fleet of 12 ships waited in formation around Earth's newest colony world, New Dallas. The planet below looked peaceful with its blue oceans and green continents. Human settlers had been living there for 20 years now. "Admiral, we're getting strange readings from deep space," said Captain Lisa Burke from her science station. She was the best xenobiologist in the human fleet and rarely got excited about anything. Today her voice carried worry. Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of readings?" "Energy waves unlike anything we've seen before. They're moving fast through space, heading straight for us." Lisa pointed at her screen. "The wave is huge, sir. It covers entire star systems." Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. "How long until it reaches us?" 6 hours, maybe less. Jake activated the ship's communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. We have an unknown energy wave approaching. All civilian ships are to evacuate immediately. Military vessels will stay to monitor the situation." Captain Sam Rodriguez, pilot of the cargo ship Independence, heard the message while loading supplies. He had been moving goods between human colonies for 15 years. He had never heard such worry in the Admiral's voice before. "Attention all, civilian ships," came another message from the flagship. "This is not a drill. Evacuate all human colonies immediately. Take as many people as you can carry." Sam started his engines without question. Other cargo ships and passenger vessels did the same. Soon thousands of ships filled the space around New Dallas, all trying to evacuate people from the planet below. Ambassador Kate Williams was on the surface when the evacuation order came. She had been meeting with representatives from the Galactic Federation. The Federation included 7 alien species who had become friends with humanity over the past 50 years. "What is happening?" asked High Chancellor Vextar, a tall reptilian creature from the Zephyrian species. His scales changed color when he was nervous, and right now they were flashing bright yellow. "I don't know," Kate replied honestly. "But our ships are detecting something dangerous coming toward us." The alien representatives looked at each other with concern. The crystalline Altarians made musical sounds that meant worry in their language. The gas-form beings from the Nebula Collective swirled anxiously in their containment suits. Back in space, Admiral Morrison watched his sensors as the energy wave grew closer. It was massive, covering light years of space. The wave seemed to bend reality around it, making space itself look twisted and wrong. "All ships prepare for impact," Jake ordered. "We don't know what this wave will do." Dr. Lisa Burke watched her instruments carefully. "Admiral, the wave is almost here. Energy levels are off the charts." Jake opened communication to all human ships and colonies. "This is Admiral Morrison to all human forces. If something happens to us, remember that we tried our best. Tell Earth what happened here." The wave hit them. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the stars started to disappear. One by one, the lights in space went out around them. The human ships began to fade away like ghosts. "What's happening to us?" Lisa shouted, but her voice sounded distant and strange. Jake looked at his hands. They were becoming transparent. He could see through them to the floor below. Around him, his crew was fading away too. "Emergency message to all Federation ships," Jake said quickly into his communicator. "The wave is making us disappear. We don't know where we're going. Tell our families we love them." The Independence was evacuating people from New Dallas when the wave hit. Sam Rodriguez felt his ship becoming lighter as if it was losing weight. Through his window he could see the planet below starting to fade. "This can't be real," Sam said to himself. But it was happening. His ship, his cargo, and all the people he was trying to save were becoming invisible. On the planet's surface, Ambassador Kate Williams felt the same strange sensation. The ground under her feet seemed less solid. The alien representatives watched, in shock as she and all the other humans began to disappear. "Kate, what is happening to your people?" Chancellor Vextar asked, reaching out to touch her. "I don't know," Kate replied. Her voice was getting weaker. "Take care of yourselves, remember us." Then she was gone. All the humans were gone. The Zephyrian Chancellor stood alone with the other alien representatives. Where thousands of humans had been standing just moments before, there was now empty space. The human ships in orbit had vanished completely. Not even small pieces were left behind. The aliens quickly contacted their fleets. Federation ships rushed to the human colonies, but they found nothing. Every human settlement, every human ship, every human person had disappeared without a trace. It was as if humanity had never existed at all. For weeks, Federation search teams looked for any sign of what had happened. They found no wreckage, no bodies, no clues. The energy wave had passed through the galaxy and was gone, leaving behind only empty space where humans used to live. The crystalline Altarians used their advanced sensors to scan for any trace of human technology. They found nothing. The Nebula Collective searched through different dimensions with their gas form abilities. Still nothing. Chancellor Vextar called an emergency meeting of the Federation Council. Representatives from all 7 alien species gathered on the capital world. "We must decide what to do about the missing humans," the Chancellor announced. "They have been gone for 3 months now. Our best scientists cannot explain what happened to them." Crystal Song Harmony, the Altarian science minister, made musical notes that translated as, "Our instruments detected no destruction. The humans simply stopped existing in our reality." "Could they have been transported somewhere else?" asked a representative from the gaseous collective. "We have searched everywhere we know how to search," replied the Chancellor. "There is no trace of them anywhere." The debate continued for days. Some aliens believed the humans were dead. Others thought they might have been moved to another dimension or another part of the galaxy. A few suggested that the humans had somehow made themselves disappear on purpose. After 2 years of searching, the Federation Council made a difficult decision. They declared humanity officially missing and presumed extinct. The human colonies and territories were marked as empty space, available for other species to claim. But some aliens never stopped believing that humans would return. They kept watch on the empty human worlds, waiting for any sign that their friends might come back. 15 years passed. The galaxy slowly forgot about the missing humans. New colonies were built where human settlements used to be. Trade routes changed. The Federation grew larger and stronger without humanity. Still, a few aliens remembered. They kept human artifacts in museums. They told stories about the clever, determined species that had vanished in a single day. And sometimes, late at night, long-range sensors picked up strange signals from the empty regions of space where humans used to live. The signals were dismissed as background radiation or equipment errors. But they were wrong. 50 years had passed since humanity vanished from the galaxy. High Chancellor Vextar stood in his office on the Federation capital world, looking out at a view that would have shocked the humans who once lived here. Where the human embassy used to stand, there was now a massive Zephyrian military complex. The galaxy had changed dramatically. Without humans to balance the power between species, the Zephyrians had become the strongest force in the Federation. Their reptilian warriors now controlled most of the military fleets. Former human colonies had been divided among the 7 Federation species, but the Zephyrians had claimed the best worlds for themselves. "Sir, the morning reports," said Commander Zekhai, entering the office with a data pad. The younger Zephyrians' scales showed the bright green color of ambition. Vex_tar took the reports and read through them. More worlds requesting Federation membership, more trade disputes between species, more requests for Zephyrian military protection. It was also different from the old days when humans helped keep peace between the species. "Any word from the Outer Rim surveys?" Vextar asked. "Nothing significant, sir. Some strange energy readings near the old human research stations. But our scientists say it's just leftover radiation from ancient experiments." Far away from the capital, on a remote trading station called Kepler Station, a young man named Blake. Torres tried to stay invisible. He worked as a maintenance technician, fixing air recyclers and waste systems. It was dirty work that most aliens didn't want to do, which made it perfect for someone who needed to stay hidden. Blake was 25 years old, but he had never seen another human being. His grandfather had been Admiral Jake Morrison, the famous human commander who disappeared with the rest of his species. Blake's mother had been born just before the vanishing, saved only because she was on a deep space medical station when the wave hit. "Hey, Torres," called Supervisor Krex, a four-armed mantis species alien. "The recycler in Section 7 is acting up again. Get down there and fix it." "Yes, sir," Blake replied, grabbing his toolkit. He had learned long ago to keep his head down and avoid attention. Most aliens didn't know what humans looked like anymore, and Blake's appearance could pass for several humanoid species if he was careful. As he worked on the broken recycler, Blake thought about the hidden message his mother had left him before she died. She had told him there were others like him, humans who had survived the vanishing by being in the right place at the wrong time. But finding them was dangerous. The Federation had rules about extinct species. Anyone claiming to be human would be taken for scientific study. In another part of the galaxy, Dr. Nina Foster worked in an illegal laboratory hidden inside an asteroid. She was one of the few aliens who still studied human technology. The Federation had banned such research years ago, saying it was pointless to study a dead civilization. But Nina believed there were secrets in human science that could help everyone. "Computer, show me the analysis of the human data core we found last month," Nina said to her laboratory's artificial intelligence. The computer displayed information on the holographic screen. Nina was a Sigma Centauri species with purple skin and large black eyes that could see details most other aliens missed. She had been studying human technology for 30 years, ever since she was a young student. "The data core contains references to something called the Temporal Research Project," the computer reported. "However, most of the files are encrypted with unknown methods." Nina frowned. She had found references to this project in several human artifacts, but she could never figure out what it was. The humans had been very secretive about certain research projects in their final years. Back on Kepler Station, Blake finished fixing the recycler and started walking back to the maintenance office. As he passed through the station's main market, he overheard a conversation that made him stop. Two alien traders were talking about old human artifacts they had found. "The energy signature is completely different from anything we know," one of them was saying. "My buyer says it might be worth millions if we can figure out what it does." Blake pretended to examine some goods at a nearby stand while listening. "Where did you find it?" asked the second trader. "Old human research station in the Vega system. The place has been abandoned for 50 years, but sometimes we find working technology in the deeper levels." Blake's heart raced. The Vega system had been one of humanity's most important research locations. His grandfather had mentioned it in the family records his mother had saved. That night, Blake sat in his small quarters and activated his hidden computer. It was built from human technology his mother had salvaged and alien parts he had collected over the years. Slowly, he accessed the illegal networks where people traded information about human artifacts. What he found made him gasp. There were dozens of reports about strange activities in former human space, energy readings that didn't match known alien technology, abandoned human installations that seemed to be activating on their own. Most interesting of all, there were reports of objects moving in deep space, objects too big to be normal spaceships. Blake typed a careful message into the network. "Looking for others who remember the old days. Family connections to Admiral Morrison. Have information to share." He sent the message and waited. It was dangerous to reveal so much about himself, but he needed to know if there were other human survivors out there. Meanwhile, in the Federation capital, Crystal Song Harmony was studying reports that worried her greatly. The Altarian Science Minister had been tracking unusual energy patterns for months, patterns that reminded her of the day humans disappeared. "The readings are getting stronger," she told her research team through musical tones that translated into spoken words. "Something is happening in the outer regions of the galaxy." Her assistant, a younger Altarian named Note of Caution, harmonized a response. "Should we report this to the Federation Council?" "Not yet," Crystal Song replied. "Chancellor Vexitar dismisses anything related to human research, but I think we should investigate ourselves." Dr. Nina Foster received Blake's message 3 days later. She had been monitoring the artifact trading networks for years, looking for clues about human technology. The mention of Admiral Morrison caught her attention immediately. She sent a careful reply. Morrison family records are rare and valuable. Meet at coordinates I will send. Come alone. Blake knew it was dangerous, but he had to take the chance. He requested leave from his maintenance job and took a small cargo ship to the meeting point, a neutral space station near the Federation border. Dr. Foster was waiting in a private meeting room. When Blake walked in, her large black eyes went wide with shock. "You're human," she whispered. "So are a few others," Blake replied carefully. "My mother survived because she was on a medical station when everyone else disappeared. Are you going to turn me in?" Nina shook her head. "I've been studying your people's technology for 30 years. I believe the humans didn't die. I think they found a way to escape." Blake pulled out a data pad containing his family's records. "My grandfather left messages. He knew something was coming. The human government had a secret project called temporal research." Nina's eyes grew even wider. "I found references to that project in other artifacts, but I could never decrypt the files. Maybe, together, we can figure it out," Blake suggested. As they began sharing information, neither of them knew that their meeting was being watched. High Chancellor Vextar had spies everywhere, and the mention of surviving humans had reached his attention. Far away, at the edge of known space, massive objects moved through the darkness between stars. They were so large that Federation sensors mistook them for small moons or asteroids. But if anyone had looked closely, they would have seen that these objects were not natural. They were ships. Ships the size of planets, moving with purpose toward the galaxy where their creators had once lived. The return was beginning. The warning came at exactly 14:30 Galactic Standard Time. Federation long-range sensors detected massive objects approaching from beyond the galactic rim. At first, the sensor operators thought their equipment was broken. "Sir, you need to see this," called Technician Veltar from his station at Federation Command Center. His Zephyrian scales were flashing bright yellow with stress. Fleet Admiral Kexhai walked over to look at the readings. What he saw made his blood run cold. The objects approaching the galaxy were enormous, each one larger than most moons. "How many ships are we looking at?" the Admiral asked. "That's the problem, sir. We count 27 objects, but they're so big that our computers keep classifying them as small planets or asteroids." High Chancellor Vextar arrived at the command center within minutes of receiving the alert. He studied the sensor data with growing alarm. Could they be natural objects? Rogue planets, perhaps? "No, sir," replied Chief Science Officer Zexlan. "They're moving in formation and maintaining specific distances from each other. These are definitely artificial constructs." "Then who built them?" Vextar demanded. "No species in the galaxy has the technology to create ships that large." The answer came 6 hours later when the objects entered the outer edge of Federation space. They moved with impossible grace for something so massive, their surfaces gleaming with strange metals that reflected light in patterns no Federation scientist had ever seen. On the bridge of the planetary warship, Terra Invictus, Admiral Ryan Clark stood calmly as his massive vessel approached the Federation fleet that had moved to intercept them. The human ship was 12,000 kilometers in diameter, a mobile world that housed 50 million people. "Admiral, Federation ships are attempting to scan us," reported Captain Helen Martinez from her tactical station. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and graying hair. "Let them try," Ryan replied with a slight smile. "Their sensors can't penetrate our shielding." "What's the status of the fleet?" "All 27 planetary ships are in position. The smaller vessels are maintaining formation around us." Dr. Alex Thompson looked up from his engineering station. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy buildups from the Federation ships. They're charging weapons." "Are they now?" Ryan walked to the main viewing screen, which showed the Federation fleet spread out before them. Hundreds of ships, representing all 7 alien species. It was impressive, but compared to human technology, they might as well have been throwing rocks. General Lucy Adams entered the bridge from the military command center. "Admiral, our Marines are ready if this turns into a shooting match." "It won't," Ryan said confidently. "They're scared, not aggressive. Look at their formation. They're trying to look threatening while staying far enough away to run if they need to. Back on the Federation flagship, High Chancellor Vexitar was having similar thoughts. The approaching objects had stopped just outside weapons range, but even from this distance, they were terrifying. Each one was large enough to have its own gravity, its own atmosphere, its own weather systems. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission," reported the communications officer. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed the interior of what looked like a command center. Standing in the center was a human male wearing some kind of advanced armor. Behind him, other humans worked at stations filled with technology that looked impossibly advanced. "This is Admiral Ryan Clark of the human colonial union ship Terra Invictus," the human said calmly. "We request permission to approach your capital world for diplomatic talks." The bridge fell silent. Zephyrian scales flickered through colors of shock and fear. Several alien officers made sounds of disbelief. "Human," Vexitar finally managed to say. "But humans are extinct. They vanished 50 years ago." "Reports of our extinction have been greatly exaggerated," Ryan replied with a slight smile. "We're back and we need to talk. There are things you need to know about what's coming." Dr. Nina Foster was in her hidden laboratory when every communication device she owned started beeping at once. News of the human return was spreading through the galaxy faster than light-speed communication. She stared at the images being broadcast, hardly believing what she was seeing. Ships the size of planets, technology that made Federation science look primitive, and humans, real living humans. After 50 years of believing they were gone forever, her communication system chimed with an incoming message. It was from Blake Torres. "Nina, are you seeing this? They're back. They're actually back." On Kepler Station, Blake stood in the main market area, watching the news broadcasts with hundreds of other beings. The alien traders and workers around him were talking in excited, worried voices. Some seemed afraid, others curious. Blake felt tears in his eyes. For his entire life, he had been alone, the last of his kind as far as he knew. Now there were ships full of humans approaching the galaxy, humans with technology that seemed like magic. "Attention all beings," came an announcement over the station's communication system. "The Federation Council has declared a state of emergency. All non-essential travel is suspended until further notice." Back in Federation space, the diplomatic negotiations were not going well. High Chancellor Vexitar had agreed to meet with the human representatives, but he insisted on bringing the entire Federation fleet as backup. A single small ship launched from the massive Terra Invictus and approached the Federation flagship. As it got closer, the aliens could see that even this tiny shuttle was larger than most Federation cruisers. The shuttle docked with the Federation ship, and Admiral Ryan Clark stepped aboard. He was tall and confident, wearing armor that seemed to shift and change as he moved. Behind him came two other humans, a woman in scientific robes and a man in military uniform. "Chancellor Vexitar," Ryan said, extending his hand in the old human greeting. "It's good to see you again. You probably don't remember me, but I was a lieutenant on Admiral Morrison's staff 50 years ago." Vexitar's scales shifted to deep purple, the color of confusion. "But you should be old or dead. How are you still young?" "Time moves differently when you know how to make it move differently," Ryan replied cryptically. "We have a lot to explain, but first, you need to understand why we came back." The woman stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Elena Parker, head of Human Temporal Sciences. What we're about to tell you will be difficult to believe, but your sensors can verify everything we say." "We didn't disappear 50 years ago," Ryan continued. "We were evacuated. The energy wave you detected was our own technology, a temporal displacement field that moved our entire civilization forward in time." "Forward in time?" Vexitar repeated. "That's impossible." "Not impossible. Just very dangerous and very expensive in terms of energy," Dr. Parker explained. "We had discovered that something terrible was coming to this galaxy, something that would destroy every living thing in it. So we moved ourselves ahead in time, to a point where we would have the technology to fight it." Captain Joe Mitchell, the military officer, activated a holographic projector. The image showed something that made every alien on the bridge step backward in fear. It looked like a tear in space itself, with things crawling through it that hurt to look at. Interdimensional entities, Joe explained. They consume entire galaxies, moving from one reality to another. Our temporal research detected them coming to our galaxy. We had 50 years to prepare. So you abandoned us, Vextar said angrily. You saved yourselves and left us to die. No, Ryan said firmly. We came back. We're here now, with the technology and knowledge to fight these things. But we need your help and you need ours. The holographic display changed to show the current galaxy, with red markers indicating places where the entities were already beginning to probe through from their dimension. They're coming whether we're here or not, Doctor, Parker said. The question is whether we face them together or separately. High Chancellor Vextar looked at the images, then at the humans, then back at the images. His lifetime of military experience told him that these humans were not lying. The technology they displayed, the sheer size of their ships, the confidence in their voices, it all pointed to beings who had been preparing for war for a very long time. What do you want from us? He asked finally. An alliance, Ryan replied. We'll share our technology, protect your worlds, and help you prepare for what's coming. In return, you help us coordinate the defense of the galaxy. And if we refuse? Ryan's expression grew sad. Then you'll face the interdimensional invasion, alone, with technology that's 50 years behind what you need to survive. The Chancellor looked around at his advisors, seeing fear and uncertainty in their eyes. Outside the ship, the massive human planetary vessels waited silently, their presence a constant reminder of how much the balance of power had changed. We'll need to discuss this with the full Federation Council, Vextar said finally. Of course, Ryan agreed. But don't take too long. Our sensors show the first major incursions will begin in 6 months. After that, things are going to get very bad, very quickly. As the human delegation prepared to return to their ship, Admiral Clark turned back to the Chancellor. One more thing, he said. We know there are human survivors in Federation space. We'd like to reunite with them. Vextar's scales shifted to the color of guilt. He had been hoping the humans wouldn't ask about that. The Federation Council chamber had never seen anything like it. Representatives from all 7 alien species sat in their designated areas, but all eyes were focused on the center of the room where 3 humans stood calmly beside a holographic display that showed their impossible technology. President Mary Johnson was the leader of the Human Colonial Union, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had been chosen to speak for humanity in these negotiations because she had been alive during the original Federation treaties 50 years ago. Honored representatives, Mary began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. We understand your shock at our return. We know you have questions about where we went and why we left without explanation. High Chancellor Vextar's scales were shifting through multiple colors as he struggled to control his emotions. You let us believe you were dead for 50 years. We mourned you. We honored your memory. Some of us never stopped looking for survivors. And you found them, Admiral Ryan Clark said softly. We know about Blake Torres and the others. We've been monitoring Federation communications since we returned. We want to thank you for taking care of our people, even when you thought we were extinct. Crystal Song Harmony, the Altarian science minister, created musical tones that translated as, Your temporal displacement technology violates everything we know about physics. How is it possible? Dr. Elena Parker activated her holographic display. Time isn't as fixed as most species believe. With enough energy and the right calculations, you can move matter forward or backward along the temporal axis. But it's incredibly dangerous. One small mistake, and you could erase yourself from existence entirely. The display showed complex, mathematical formulas that made even the most advanced alien scientists feel dizzy just looking at them. The energy requirements are enormous, Elena continued. We had to harvest the power of 3 entire stars just to move our civilization 50 years forward in time. And that was with our most advanced technology. A representative from the gaseous collective swirled nervously in his containment suit. Why didn't you tell us what was coming? We could have prepared together. Would you have believed us? President Johnson asked gently. If we had told you that interdimensional monsters were going to invade the galaxy in 50 years, what would you have done? We would have. Vextar started to answer, then stopped. He knew she was right. The Federation would have thought humans were insane. Besides, Admiral Clark added, you couldn't have helped us then. The technology gap was too large. Human science was already decades ahead of Federation technology 50 years ago. If we had tried to share temporal displacement with you then, it would have been like trying to teach Stone Age people how to build starships. Captain Joe Mitchell stepped forward to address the military representatives in the audience. Let me show you what we're really dealing with. The holographic display changed to show a detailed view of the interdimensional entities. They looked like a combination of machine and living tissue, constantly shifting and changing shape. Some were small, about the size of Federation fighters. Others were massive, larger than space stations. They don't follow the rules of our reality, Joe explained. They can appear and disappear at will. They can phase through solid matter. They consume energy directly, which means they eat stars, planets, and anything else with power. How do you fight something like that? Asked a mantis species military officer. Very carefully and with technology that can affect multiple dimensions at once, Joe replied. Watch this. The display showed a recording of a human planetary ship engaging a group of the entities. The human weapons didn't fire energy beams or projectiles. Instead, they seemed to create tears in space itself, trapping the entities in what looked like dimensional prisons. Our weapons work by manipulating space-time directly, Joe continued. We can create pocket dimensions to trap them or collapse, the dimensional barriers they use to phase between realities. Dr. Elena Parker brought up another display. But the real key to fighting them is understanding their life cycle. They're not just random destroyers. They're following a pattern, moving from galaxy to galaxy in a specific order. We spent 30 years studying them in our accelerated time frame, President Johnson added. We learned that they're not evil in the way most species understand evil. They're more like a cosmic force of nature, consuming energy to survive and reproduce. That doesn't make them less dangerous, Admiral Clark said grimly. In fact, it makes them more dangerous because they can't be reasoned with or negotiated with. They exist to consume, and they'll consume everything in this galaxy if we don't stop them. High Chancellor Vextar had been listening quietly, his scales slowly shifting to the deep blue color of serious thought. You said you need our help. What kind of help? Coordination, Mary Johnson replied. The entities will attack the galaxy from multiple points at once. We have 27 planetary ships, but we can't be everywhere. We need Federation fleets to handle the smaller incursions while we deal with the major invasion points. You want us to fight these things with our current technology? Vextar asked. You just showed us that regular weapons don't work against them. Not regular weapons, Dr. Parker agreed. That's why we're offering to upgrade your technology. We can retrofit your ships with dimensional stabilizers and reality anchors. It won't make them as powerful as our planetary ships, but it will let them hurt the entities. The chamber erupted in excited chatter as the alien representatives discussed this offer among themselves. The chance to receive human technology was tempting, but many were still suspicious of humanity's motives. A Zephyrian military commander stood up. What guarantee do we have that you won't use this advanced technology to conquer us after the invasion is over? Admiral Clark looked directly at the commander. The same guarantee you had 50 years ago when we were allies. Our word, and the fact that if we wanted to conquer you, we would have done it already instead of asking for your help. To demonstrate his point, Ryan activated his personal communicator. Terra Invictus, this is Admiral Clark. Show them what one of our ships can do. High above the capital world, the massive human planetary ship began to glow. Energy patterns danced across its surface as it activated systems that the Federation had never imagined were possible. Every electronic device on the planet's surface stopped working for exactly 10 seconds. The lights went out, communication systems went dead, and even the life support systems paused. Then everything came back online, functioning perfectly. That was just our ship clearing electromagnetic interference from its sensors, Admiral Clark explained calmly. We weren't trying to damage anything, but if we wanted to disable your entire planet, we could do it without firing a single weapon. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had technology so advanced that they could cripple entire worlds just by turning on their sensors. President Johnson stepped forward again. We're not here to conquer or control. We're here because this is our home galaxy too, and we want to save it. But we can't do it alone, and you can't do it without us. Crystal Song Harmony created a complex melody that translated as, if we agree to this alliance, what happens to Federation independence? Do we become subordinate to the human colonial union? No, Mary replied firmly. We're offering partnership, not occupation. Each species maintains control of their own worlds and fleets. We coordinate military strategy against the interdimensional threat, but political decisions remain with individual governments. Dr. Parker activated another holographic display. We've also prepared technology packages that we can share immediately, medical advances that will extend lifespans for all Federation species, energy production methods that will eliminate resource scarcity, transportation technology that will let you travel between star systems in hours instead of weeks. Why? Asked a representative from the Silicon-based Crystalline Coalition. Why share so much with us? Because diversity makes us stronger, Admiral Clark answered. Humans are good at some things, but each of your species has unique abilities that we lack. The Altarians can process information in ways that help with complex calculations. The gaseous collective can exist in environments that would kill solid matter species. The Zephyrians have tactical thinking patterns that improve military strategy. We learned something important during our 50 years of accelerated development, President Johnson added. Isolation makes you weak. We became incredibly advanced, but we also became limited. We need other perspectives, other ways of thinking. We need allies, not subjects. High Chancellor Vextar stood up slowly. His scales had settled into the silver color of serious decision-making. The Federation Council will need time to debate this proposal. But speaking personally, I believe, we have little choice. If these entities are as dangerous as you say, we need every advantage we can get. Time is something we don't have much of, Admiral Clark warned. Our long-range sensors show that the entities are already beginning to probe the galaxy's outer small groups testing our defenses. The main invasion will begin in less than 6 months. Then we'll have our answer in 1 week, Vextar decided. But I want to. 6 months after humanity's return, the galaxy was a very different place. Blake Torres stood on the observation deck of the human planetary ship New Earth, watching Federation vessels practice maneuvers with their newly upgraded weapon systems. It still felt like a dream to him, being surrounded by other humans after a lifetime of hiding. It's amazing how quickly they adapted to the new technology, said Captain Helen Martinez, joining Blake at the window. She had become his mentor since his arrival on the human ships, helping him learn about the society his people had built during their time away. The Zephyrians are especially quick learners, Blake replied, pointing to a group of reptilian warships that were practicing dimensional anchor deployment. Admiral Clark says they have natural tactical instincts that work well with our weapon systems. Helen nodded. Your grandfather would be proud to see this. Admiral Morrison always believed that cooperation between species was the key to surviving in this galaxy. The Federation Council had voted to accept the human alliance after seeing proof of the interdimensional threat. Scouts from the entities had been detected at 3 separate locations on the galaxy's rim, and Federation ships equipped with human technology had successfully driven them back. But the real test was coming soon. Human long-range sensors had detected massive movements in the dimensional barriers surrounding the galaxy. The main invasion was about to begin. Fleet Admiral Danny Cooper stood in the command center of Terra Invictus, coordinating the defense of 17 star systems simultaneously. The humans had divided their planetary ships to cover the most likely invasion points, while Federation fleets protected secondary targets. Admiral, we're getting reports from the Vega system, called Commander Lisa Grant from her communications. Station. Dimensional rifts are opening near the outer planets. How many? Danny asked. Sensors show at least 50 entities coming through, with more rifts opening every minute. Danny activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Cooper. Operation Galaxy Shield is now active. Federation fleets move to secondary positions. Planetary ships engage primary targets. The New Earth was one of 3 human ships assigned to the Vega system. Captain Steve Powell watched from his bridge as reality itself seemed to tear open near the system's edge. Through the rifts came the interdimensional entities, just as horrible as the humans had described them. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Amy Watson, the ship's science officer. "They're even worse in person." The entities were a nightmare combination of machine and flesh, constantly shifting between different forms. Some looked like giant mechanical spiders with organic components. Others resembled living ships covered in eyes and teeth. All of them radiated an energy that made normal space feel wrong and twisted. "All weapons. Target the largest entities. First," Steve ordered. "Remember, we need to close those dimensional rifts or they'll keep coming through forever." The New Earth fired its reality disruptor cannons. The weapons created controlled tiers in space-time that trapped several entities in pocket dimensions. But for every entity they destroyed, 2 more came through the rifts. "Captain, Federation ships are requesting assistance," reported the communications officer. "The Zephyrian fleet is taking heavy losses." Steve looked at the tactical display. The Federation ships were fighting bravely, but their upgraded weapons were no match for the larger entities. The Zephyrian admiral had led his fleet directly into the thickest part of the battle, trying to buy time for civilian evacuations. "Take us in closer," Steve ordered. "We need to support our allies." Meanwhile, Dr. Nina Foster was aboard the Altarian, science vessel Harmony of Knowledge, which had been given human sensor upgrades to track the entity's dimensional signatures. She worked alongside Crystal Song Harmony, using their combined knowledge to find weaknesses in the invaders' defenses. "The entities are using quantum tunneling to phase between dimensions," Nina reported to the fleet. "If we can disrupt their quantum fields at exactly the right frequency, we can force them to stay in our reality where they're vulnerable." "What frequency do you need?" asked Admiral Cooper from Terra Invictus. Crystal-Song Harmony created a complex musical tone that the ship's computers translated into specific energy patterns. "This harmonic sequence should work, but it needs to be broadcast from multiple sources simultaneously. All ships, adjust your reality anchors to the frequency Dr. Foster is transmitting," Admiral Cooper ordered. "Coordinate your firing sequences with the Altarian calculations." The combined fleet began working together in perfect harmony. Human planetary ships provided the massive firepower needed to destroy the largest entities, while Federation vessels used their upgraded weapons to handle smaller targets. The Altarian science ships calculated optimal firing solutions, and the gaseous collective scouts used their natural abilities to track entities that tried to hide in different dimensional phases. But the real breakthrough came when Blake Torres made a suggestion that changed everything. "What if we don't just fight them?" he asked during a strategy meeting aboard Terra Invictus. "What if we turn their own dimensional technology against them?" General Lucy Adams looked at the young man with interest. "Explain." "The entities travel between galaxies by creating stable dimensional corridors," Blake continued. "What if we could reverse those corridors, send them back where they came from instead of trying to destroy them all?" Dr. Elena Parker ran calculations on her computer. "It's theoretically possible, but it would require enormous amounts of energy, focused through a single point. We have 27 planetary ships," Admiral Clark pointed out. "If we combine their power output, we could create a dimensional reversal field large enough to affect the entire galaxy," Elena finished. "It would send every entity back to their home dimension and collapse the barriers behind them." President Mary Johnson studied the proposal. "What are the risks?" "If we make a mistake, we could tear holes in reality that would never heal," Elena admitted. "Or we could accidentally send ourselves to the entity's dimension instead of sending them home." "But if it works," Admiral Cooper added, We end the invasion permanently. No more worrying about them coming back in a few thousand years. The decision was made quickly. The human fleet began moving into position around the galaxy's center, where the gravitational forces would help focus their combined energy output. Federation ships spread out to handle any entities that tried to interfere with the process. As the human planetary ships aligned themselves in a complex geometric pattern, Blake found himself thinking about his grandfather. Admiral Jake Morrison had disappeared 50 years ago, believing he was leading his people to safety. Now his grandson was helping to save the entire galaxy. Initiating dimensional reversal sequence, announced Dr. Parker from her position aboard. Terra Invictus. All ships report ready status. One by one, the 27 planetary ships confirmed they were in position. Their massive hulls began to glow as they channeled unprecedented amounts of energy into a single focused beam. Energy levels at 50% and rising, reported Captain Martinez. Reality distortion field is stable. Throughout the galaxy, the effects were immediate. The dimensional rifts that the entities had been using to enter normal space began to collapse. Entities already in the galaxy found themselves being pulled back toward their home dimension. "It's working," called out Commander Grant. "Entity, numbers are dropping across all sectors." But the entities weren't giving up without a fight. The largest ones began combining together, forming massive super-entities that resisted the dimensional pull. These creatures turned toward the human fleet, recognizing the source of their problems. "Incoming hostiles," warned Captain Powell from the New Earth. "They're heading straight for us." The combined super-entity was larger than some moons, a writhing, massive interdimensional horror that seemed to bend space around it just by existing. As it approached the human formation, reality itself began to break down. "Maintain the reversal field," ordered Admiral Cooper. "Federation fleets, engage that thing before it reaches us." Every Federation ship in the galaxy turned toward the massive entity. Zephyrian warships fired their upgraded reality anchors, forcing the creature to remain in normal space. Altarian science vessels calculated weak points in its interdimensional structure. The gaseous collective scouts coordinated attacks from multiple directions. Blake watched from Terra Invictus as thousands of ships from 7 different species worked together to protect the human fleet. It was the largest cooperative military action in galactic history. Species that had once been enemies now fighting side by side. "Energy levels at 90%, Dr. Parker announced. "Dimensional reversal field approaching critical mass." The super-entity was getting closer, but it was also getting smaller as pieces of it were pulled back to its home dimension. The Federation fleet kept up their attack, preventing it from using its full power against the humans. 100%. "Energy output achieved," Parker called out. "Activating dimensional reversal field in 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted. For a moment that felt like forever. The galaxy existed in multiple dimensions at once. Then, with a sound that was felt rather than heard, everything snapped back to normal.